Okie dokie, guys. This video is going to be regarding chapter 16, calculations for compounding. Pretty much in the pharmacy calculations book. Pretty much compounds are prepared in pharmacies for prescription orders that are not commercially available in strength or in form needed. And careful calculations are necessary to be sure that the patient receives the proper dose of medication. Okay, you can also perform these calculations by carefully setting up ratio and proportion or dimensional analysis. The way I'm going to explain certain things is basically to read the question, understand the question, and understand what is being asked from you. Okay, I'm going to jump into the problems and just pretty much explain what's going on in each problem. I'm going to go through and do the odds 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15, simply because all the other examples after that are the same model. So you don't really need the same explanation over and over again. Okay, so in number 1, we get a problem that states how much clindamycin phosphate, 100 per milligram per ml, and how much Cetaphil lotion is needed or are needed to prepare the following compound. Okay, so the prescription reads clindamycin phosphate 600 milligrams in Cetaphil lotion. Your Cetaphil lotion is your base. Okay, so what you need to come up with is how many milligrams will create the 600, given that you have 150 milligrams to work with. So every ml that you have, okay, because it states right here, your clindamycin phosphate comes in 150 milligram per ml. Okay, so in order to get a total of 600 milligrams in your lotion, you need 4 mLs, right? 150 and 150 is 300, and double that is 600. So 4 ml needs to be in this cream. But because you're dispensing 60 ml total, you cannot, you must subtract the 4 ml that you're using to have a drug that contains the drug. You need to subtract it from the total of your base. Okay, so like you're dispensing a total of 60, and you're taking 4 of it to give it an active drug. Okay, so the 4 ml is active. So you need to remove the 4 ml because you're filling the jar up, the entire jar, in order for it to be 600 milligrams in a 60 ml bottle. 4 of those mLs need to be active drug. Okay, so now whatever remains would be your 56 ml. Let me just double check and see if that comes into focus. Okay, so 56 ml and 4 ml gives you a total of 60 ml. So the only thing that you really needed to figure out here is how much you're taking out of your base in order to add your active ingredient, which is your clindamycin. Okay, so basically figure out your 600 milligrams, plug that in, or subtract the active out of your total that you need to dispense, and then quantity sufficient, or QS, up to the remaining with the base lotion. Okay, so let's move on to number 3. Number 3 states a prescription written for acyclovir 1200 milligrams, silica gel, micronized 0.12 grams, polyethylene glycol 3350 6.5 grams, polyethylene glycol 400 15 ml. How many 200 milligram capsules of acyclovir are needed to prepare this compound? So all of this extra stuff, from the silica gel to the polyethylene glycol. That's just extra. In this question, it's simply asking your main and active ingredient for acyclovir. Your acyclovir ingredient should be 1200 milligrams. And you have 200 milligram capsules. So how many of those do you need in order to add to your compound? Okay, so in other words, how many times does 200 go into 1200? And you get 6. Okay, so 1200 milligram capsules, 1200 milligrams needs to be in your compound, and you have 200 milligrams at a time. So 6 capsules would be your answer. Okay. Number 5, a prescription is written for dilantin 5% in zinc oxide, quantity sufficient 100 grams. How many dilantin 50 milligram tablets are needed to prepare this compound? Okay, so whenever you have a percentage, I want you to divide it by 100 so you can get it into a decimal form. Okay, get it into a decimal form and then work from that. So let's read the question again. The prescription is written for dilantin 5% in zinc oxide, quantity sufficient 120 grams. How many dilantin 50 milligram tablets are needed to prepare this compound? Okay, so before we do anything, we create our percentage into a decimal. So we divide 5 by 100 because any percentage is out of 100%. Okay, so we divide 5 out of 100 and we multiply by 120 grams, which is what we need, which is our total amount. Okay, we need to figure out what 5% is out of 120, out of 120 grams. Okay, so 6 grams is needed. 6 grams of powder or pure chemical is needed to be added to this 120 grams formula in order for it to be 5%. Okay, so if you take 6 grams, which is also known as 6,000 milligrams because it's in 1 milligram, or 1 gram, sorry, 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. I wrote that backwards. 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So 6 grams would be 6,000 milligrams. Okay, and you have breakdowns of 50 milligram tablets. Okay, so 50 milligram tablets go into 6,000 milligrams 120 times. Okay, so basically 50 goes into 6,000 120 times, and since each time would be considered a tablet for you, you need to provide the formula with 120 tablets. Okay, so in short, your percentages should be decimals. Multiply it by the amount that you need to prepare to figure out what the total should be in the formula. Once you figure out what the total should be in the formula, break it down by what you have available to use. So for example, if these tablets came in 100 and you had 100 milligram tablets, you would only use 60, okay? Because you would divide the 6,000 milligram by the 100 in order to get 60. But in this case, you only had a bottle of 50 milligram tablets, okay? So you would use 120 of those tablets in order to plug it into your formula so it can be 5% of dilantin. Okay. Number 7. Number 7 is a bit the same way as number 5. It states, a prescription is written for ichthymol ointment 2 ounces. Okay. How much ichthymol is needed to prepare 2 ounces if you're using the following formula? 100 grams of ichthymol, 100 grams of lanolin, 800 grams of petroleum to make 1,000 grams. Okay? By looking at this formula, you can see that the 100 grams of ichthymol is the same thing as saying 10% ichthymol. And also the 100 grams of lanolin is 10% of lanolin. And 800 grams of petroleum is 80% petroleum. Okay? So again, because we see 10%, 10%, and 80, which totals 100%, right? Or 1,000 grams, you would take your 100% or your 100 grams, and you would take your 10%, divide it by 100 to get 0.1. So you take your 10% and divide it by 100, and you get 0.1 as the decimal that you're looking to complete, or the decimal that you're going to use. Okay? All right. And here it says, hint, use 31 grams. 31 grams equals 102. Okay. On average, each ounce is 30 ml. So here you would have 60 ml. But it is asking you to use the international troy ounce, because 31 equals 102 is the international troy ounce, which is equal to 31 grams. Okay, so rather than doing 30 ounces and 30 ml and 30 ml, which is a 60 ml and 2 ounces, right? You would do 31 ml and 31 ml, which equals to 62 ml in this 2 ounces. Okay, so your 2 ounces would be 62 ml in this case because it gives you this hint. Okay, so all you do at this point is get your 10% out of your 100, right? And then multiply it by 62. Your 0.1% or your 0.1, your 10% equals 0.1. And if you multiply it by 62 ounces that you need to make, you will get a 6.2 gram or 6.2 grams as your answer of what you need to include, because it's asking how much ichthymol is needed to prepare 2 ounces. That is your real question. Okay? The real question is how much ichthymol is needed to prepare 2 ounces. So since you know that the 100 grams of ichthymol is 10% of this formula, you create a 10% decimal point and you multiply it by however much your 2 ounces is, which is in this case 62 ml rather than 60, and you get 6.2 grams. So 6.2 grams would be what you needed to put. 6.2 grams of ichthymol is needed to create a 2 ounce formula. Okay, let's move on. Number 9. Number 9 states, let's see if I can focus it. A prescription is written for metoprolol tartrate, 10 milligram over 1 ml, in a 50-50 mixture of Aura Sweet and Aura Plus vehicle QS 120 ml. Okay, how many metoprolol tartrate 100 milligram tablets are needed to prepare this compound? Okay, first off, you need a total of 120 ml. Okay, so you get your 120 ml, and you see here that each of these ml need to be 10 milligram over 1 ml metoprolol tartrate. So what you do in this case is you take your 120 ml and you multiply it by 10 milligrams, because each of those mLs need to have 10 milligrams worth of metoprolol tartrate powder in it. Okay, so 120 ml times the 10 milligrams that you're going to give the formula, you need a total of 1200 milligram in this entire 120 ml bottle in order to fulfill this formula. Okay, and the way you're going to break it down, or the way you're going to make it, is by crushing 100 milligram tablets. Okay, because that's what you have available to use. So you're going to get your 1200 milligrams and you're going to divide it by what you have to use, which is 100 milligram tablets. And you're going to figure out that you need 12 tablets in order to make this compound. Okay, so if in another example, if you had 200 milligram tablets, you would only need 6 in order to fulfill your 1200 milligram in the entire compound. All right, moving on to number 11. Let me just double check. Okay. A prescription is written for salicylic acid 1%, menthol 0.25%, and triamcinolone 0.1% cream. How much salicylic acid powder should be used if the prescription is for 240 grams? Okay, so because it's focusing on what you need for salicylic acid, you're going to focus that 1%, which will turn into, because rule number 1 is basically to break down your percentages into decimal form. So your 1 divided by 100 equals 0.01 in decimal form. And because your total needs to be 240, all you need to do is multiply your 0.01 by the 240 grams that you need to have, or that you need to fulfill this order, to figure out that this question, how much salicylic acid powder should be used. Okay, so for 240 grams of cream, for it to be 1% strong, you need to put 2.4 grams of that powder into this cream. Okay, that's all it really means. Let's move on to number 13. You need to prepare 100 ml of hydrocortisone, 2 milligram per ml suspension. How many hydrocortisone 20 milligram tablets will you need? Okay, again, you have 2 milligram for each ml, and you need to complete 100 ml worth. Okay, which makes 2 milligrams times 100 ml, 200 milligrams total. Okay, so your total bottle has 200 milligrams, and you're using 20 milligram tablets to make this strength. You want to make 200 milligrams, right? But you only have available 20 milligram tablets. So you take your 200 milligram and you divide it by what you have available to use in order to figure out that you need 10 tablets. Okay, so in short, when you have a formula like this, it basically is asking, if you wanted to prepare 100 ml of this product and you wanted it to be this strong, so I want to make 100 ml of hydrocortisone, 2 milligram per ml. So I want to make 100 ml that is strong enough, or for each ml to be 2 milligrams strong. Okay, and I only have 20 milligram tablets to do this. So when when you figure out that each of your mLs need to be 2 milligrams strong, you figure out that you need 200 milligrams in the entire bottle of 100 ml. 200 of those milligrams need to be, you need to have 200 milligrams of this particular drug in 100 ml worth of medicine. Okay, so 200 ml and 200 milligrams is what you need, but you only have 20 milligram tablets to do this with. So you need to divide 200 by 20 in order to get 10. So if you were to get 100 ml and then 10 tablets of the hydrocortisone, your entire formula would end up being 2 milligrams per ml because you've placed 10 of those tablets in there. Okay, I think that makes a little, I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but you may need to replay that one more time. Okay, and last question, I believe. You need to prepare 120 ml of potassium bromide. That is 250 milligram over 1 ml strong, okay? So when you see something like this, potassium bromide 250 milligram over 1 ml, that is the strength of this drug. This is part of the name, okay? So you need 120 ml of potassium bromide 250 milligram per ml, okay? How much potassium bromide should you weigh? Okay, so first let's figure out how many milligrams you need, okay, in 120. So because each 1 ml equals 250, 120 ml would equal 30,000 milligrams. So 250 times the 120 that you need creates 30,000 milligrams. Okay. Each 1,000 milligram, we've stated that earlier, equals 1 gram. Okay. So if we were to divide our 30,000 milligrams by 1,000, right, we would get a total of 30 grams of pure powder. So that is what we would use. We would use 30 grams of pure powder, potassium bromide 250 per ml, in our 120 ml bottle in order to get this answer. Okay, and I hope that explanation was clear enough. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments section and I'll be sure to answer them as best as I can. Thanks.